So it comes from, honestly, it comes from like grading film back playing sports, right? You get a check, you did your job. You get a plus, you did something great. You get a minus, hey, we need to talk about it, right? So what that does is it allows for, kind of the gray area, right? So what we had talked about, me and Joe, is sometimes, yes, it's being done, but like, is it,
Yeah.
Or some of the stuff is very black and white, Is the music appropriate? That's gonna be yes or no, Did the session start on time? Well, yes or no. But did you stick and move and talk like Tony during that session?
Welcome back, Little Gym, Big Heart. I'm here in Powerstrength, Byron Center, one of the newest locations of the Powerstrength
Gympire.
That's
what we call it.
Here with Mark Ennis, founder of Powerstrength Training Systems and the director of training for all of the Powerstrength Training Systems. Probably already shared the interview with Mark at this point, talking about the backstory, how they run the model. And this is the guy that essentially you're responsible for the quality of training that takes place in Powerstrength, development of the coaches. So why don't you give a quick background into your background here?
Yeah, absolutely. So started Powerstrength way back in 2013. Kind of grown from a coach into each of the different roles. Mark has done a great job allowing me to grow through those roles. Most of those roles didn't exist before I did them. So it started with, hey, doing the coaching, and then let's do the coaching and the programming, and then we start hiring, developing more coaches. Hey, let's lead those folks, let's make sure that the quality is there. And then as we expand into multiple locations, obviously that quality control becomes multifaceted. We got to make sure that all the teams are up to shape, all the coaches are up to shape, and across multiple different client backgrounds. Right?
So what is your actual background?
Yeah, my actual background, going to school for biochem, and then came to Powerstrength as an intern between football seasons in college, and then came back every break from there, and then right out of college came here and been working since.
So biochem, you get a CSCS or something throughout your time. What can you say about his development from the early days?
I mean, how much time we got, but no. I mean, it's really rare to have someone like him, his ability, but also the loyalty, but also it's really the mindset of our culture of live a good place that kills lifestyle, have a growth mindset. He embodies that to a T, albeit sometimes it's, hey, let's do this. And at the end of the day, you want what's best for the company and for our clientele. I give him tons of credit for that, and so we are very much aligned with that, and that's why it's been able to work. Because if he wasn't willing to change and adapt, then he's no longer here. Because the business has evolved so much.
Yeah.
Like, one from really small place that's really unified and connected to now, again, 8 facilities, and it's different. Like, the culture is different. We just hired our 40th team member. Like, that's nuts comparatively, and we aren't not able to do that without the leadership at the top, which includes him as a director of training, helping to maintain that quality, because that was kind of that's our two things, right? We're forgettable or we're mediocre. That's how we're going to lose. And being mediocre was like, all right, if we're going to keep expanding, then we need to have a system to figure out if the quality is still really, really high and up to par for our standards.
And you're responsible for who you bring onto the team for the most part, right?
Yep.
So let's talk, what do you look for in a coach that you bring into the Powerstrength team?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm part of that process, right? We have a director of personnel, does a great job. Mark, Cam, Arbery involved in that process as well. We do a practical as part of that process, a coaching practical where I get to meet people in that hiring process. Really, it's so that we can establish that rapport. If and when they come onto the team, we want to make sure that we're on the same page as far as what we're trying to get done. But it's also lending some of that insight into, hey, how long do I think until this person's ready? What do I think their strengths are? What those kind of things, so that we can build the best development plan for them. What I really look for is people who can take coaching. So you do that practical. Nobody ever comes, batteries included, knowing all the words, saying all the cues. But as we go through that, kind of coaching them up a little bit and seeing how they react to that and what they could grow into as a professional, right? We're looking for those traits of professionalism. Can you communicate? Can you take coaching? Are you serious on time? Do you care about people? I asked them to share some of, if they've done coaching before, share some of the goals that they've helped clients achieve. And I'm looking for heart, I'm looking for communication.
Yeah.
We can teach all the X's and O's.
Yeah, I think that's the most important point is, like, we can teach the X's and O's. You can't really teach somebody having that give a shit factor. Are there any red flags? You kind of mentioned it, but are there any red flags that are complete
Yeah.
knows for you?
Yeah, so it's the inability to kind of pick up the conversation in people's heads, right? The inability to put yourself in their shoes, you know? We'll do a split squat in the practical.
Yeah.
And, you know, hey, I'm an adult, I'm, 40 plus years old, haven't trained in 20 years, all that. And they'll say, all right, pop down on the floor for me. And I go, how long do you got, right? And then you kind of coach them up on that, and then they do it again. And then they do it again. And it's, hey, we got to be able to pick up this conversation. We got to empathize first, right? People don't care what you know until they know that you care. So we got to make sure that we can pick up that conversation. So really just lack of empathy beyond of course, if you're late, if you're, cursing a bunch, if you're inappropriate, of course, right? Most folks don't make it to that step if they can't, put an interview together. But the big thing that I'm checking for is, can you talk the talk? Can you coach? And not coach with a lowercase c, but coach with a capital C, which starts with that I got to know what's going on in your head.
Yeah.
Can I speak to that real quick too? Because it's like, are they that core value fit? And again, so Skyler touched on it briefly. We do a phone call. We do it in person. I mean, I'm doing that first in person, like I mentioned in the last episode, with our director of operations, Aubrey. And then we do a shadow like in the gym, and it's usually with Cam, our COO, or a combination of Aubrey and myself as well, just to get another touch point with that person. And by then it's like, all right, then it's going to go to Skyler, and Aubrey's with that as well. So Aubrey kind of holds them the whole time through, so that's that constant cadence with her. And then Skyler, we put him in like, hey, like, 'cause I was doing these at the end, I'm like, this is like too much. And I also, like, my first thing is like, well, what do you think? Or what Skyler thinks? Like, you have to be able to trust, like, hey, like, we're aligned here. So I want to know, not only are they not only a core value fit, but like he said, the first thing he looks for is they're coachable. So the first thing a red flag is like, are they not coachable?
Yeah.
Because like we can go take our pick of anyone else. So you better be coachable, and you better be that core value fit of, be a pro and care and have a servant's heart and all of our core values, and being socially smart, with emotionally intelligent. Like that's a big piece, because we've morphed this. So what you can take out of this is, it's not just are we going to hire them or not. We've systematized it to where it was like, when we hire them, what's their onboarding look like? So we can customize their onboarding, so we know when we're going to get them on the floor, when they're going to be serviceable, which might dictate the offer that we give them.
So let's talk on, you bring somebody on. How do you oversee their development? Like, how does it look to oversee, especially being in 8 different locations at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have our initial install period is the X's and O's. That's we call it kind of the basic side of coaching. Hey, here's squat, here's the cues you're going to use, here's our progression of squats, and here's how you might make choices there. But the big part of it is live in session with these people doing practicals. So every step along the way, they do the information, they coach it, and then I come and assess it and clear them on being able to do that in sessions live with clients.
I'm going to drill for some specifics.
Please.
So if somebody starts, let's say I got hired this week. What is the touch point cadence for that? I'm out on the floor doing what?
Yep, I'm with them on their first day.
Got it.
So the big deal that I talk about is, don't be that weird guy over there, right? And start to ingratiate yourself with the team and with the clients, because you're buying yourself leeway for when you start to coach. You may not be the most...
You do a bad job.
Yeah, you may not be the most clear when you start. So if they don't like you and you're not clear, they're going to be like, what's this guy doing?
Yeah.
So getting to know folks, right? I talk them through the flow of the gym. We talk through body language a ton, being welcoming, being open. Even if you don't get to talk to everyone, they're still going to see you from across the way. And I want them to be curious in a good way. Hey, who is that? Do I get to work with them? Or who is that? Right?
Yeah, that's
what are
the
they
new
doing
guy.
in the gym?
Yeah, wow, we got new incoming? Because our members love that.
So it's setting expectations. It's kind of teaching them where to go in the room and holding their hand through that first day. As we get more comfortable, I'll take them along and we'll shadow coaches who are actually coaching. And I say, here's how they're making that decision. Here's why they're saying that way. We are basically trying to teach them how to observe, right? Because first couple of weeks, they're not going to do a lot of coaching.
So just to drill in specifics, how many hours, like, is it Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they're doing coaching, and then Tuesday, Thursdays, it's just practical X's and O's stuff? What does the actual schedule look like?
Depends on their schedule, right? So some people full-time right away, some people part-time, they do other stuff as well.
Got it.
We are generally weekly with the practicals, and where that fits in the schedule, it depends on how many people we have in the pipeline at a time. But they're gonna have 4 or 5 days of practice doing the thing, and then we'll do a practical on that 4th, 5th day, then they're cleared hot, and then we go to the next one.
What does a practical look like?
Yep, so initially they're very practical. Hey, coach me how to squat, and then I run you feedback, and then, hey, coach me on a split squat, and then I run you feedback. And as we get into more of the advanced coaching stuff, then we're going to have more context. Hey, this client responds to, this more in this direction. So here's how I'd workshop how to say that. As we get further along the process, they begin to coach more things. Then I'm observing them coaching a part of a session, right? So if you get into week 3, 4, you know how to coach all the X's and O's of the fundamentals. You're cleared on it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and observe you coach. You're going to take these 3 clients through this section of the training, and I'm going to take notes on that, and then I give you feedback on those guys, and then we kind of expand from there. So we try to get at least 2 live observations with clients as part of this process. It usually works out to be more than that. If folks are struggling, it's much more than that, right? If folks are cruising, we can start to, still go through all the stuff, but at a faster rate.
So now somebody's gotten through that whole development period. Is it 4 or 5 weeks?
The initial is 4 weeks.
Out on their floor.
Yep.
What's your touch point? Like, how are you coaching, holding them accountable, leading them, managing them for the entirety of their career as a coach with you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. So getting to each of the locations and checking in with the teams, the goal is once a month, right, to be able to check in with the teams. Big old spreadsheet on who is at what location and what they need, how they prefer to receive feedback, what the periodicity of how often I need to check back in.
Be in every location at least once a month?
Yes.
Do you do a full day? Is it?
Usually a shift.
A shift, yeah.
So then, to speak to that too, this is where the teamwork comes in, because it's the core, it's the full team, it's the coordinators, it's the facility leader, it's the regional manager, and then how do we function and communicate appropriately for what's needed. And then so Skyler, the same thing, driving feedback back to them, but then they also know where that person should be at. Are they running sessions solo? Where have they been cleared to do? And so that's where the communication comes in from across, literally covering our big surface area. That's been a challenge. When we refine that pretty well, I think we always can improve on those pieces. But then when you mix in this whole part of the ecosystem of development, every quarter we know which staff member should be developing what and what the focus should be. And so how can Skyler assist with that? So it's not just new hires, it's also the continuously, like, we can't say it the same. So we're constantly getting better. What's the process for that? How do I identify that? And that information lives in a spreadsheet that leadership and Skyler has access to, so we can kind of make sure that's progressing quarter after quarter.
Yeah, so this is, selfishly being able to talk to you, like we're still trying to refine, like our training director, how do you get enough touch points with people? Like how do you get enough, so you're going for a shift at least once a month. How do you make sure you get every single coach under your belt?
Yeah. So
is there a session review scorecard? Is like, what are you assessing them on?
Yeah, absolutely. So on the rotation side, just trying to get to, sometimes it's morning, sometimes it's evening. Of course, I work with the manager at each location, the facility leader at each location. If there's somebody I really, really need to see, I'm going to say, hey, when's the best time to see this person coach?
Yeah.
If there's a couple of people I need to say and say, hey, I have this time open, can you make sure that they're both coaching at that time?
Yeah.
So it's coordination. It's working together as a team. I won't, act like I can see every coach every time, because we don't expect people to be there all the time, always. But if there's somebody that needs to be seen, we'll work together to figure out when that is.
And I'll say this too, remember our structure and our model. So if he goes for a shift, that's a 3:30, 4:30, 5:30, 6:30 type shift. There's usually 2 or 3 coaches on each side of the gym. So there's 4 or 5 coaches coaching. So if he observes that, he can really assess. And he can have different, we do a session evaluation. So you can have multiple evaluation things going at a time. So we can get more touch points in with, it's not just watching one coach every single second of that shift.
Right. So I have 2 questions. Let's start with the session evaluation.
Yeah.
What does that look like? How do you make it? Because the thing we've struggled with is we started with this and it was like, just watch a session and just, is it good or bad? Over time, we've become a lot more like, it's got to be objective. Like, what is good coaching? What does good cueing mean? How do you make it as objective as possible so that it doesn't just become like, hey, you just got to bring better energy?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
What does the session review feedback mechanism look like so that people can actually have a clear path to winning? Yeah.
Yeah, we started with it giant, and then it became like kind of a less is more thing. If everything is important, nothing is, right? So we went to what are the most important steps? How do you set the stage for company coming over? How do you deliver on it when they're there? How do you continue to do that hour after hour and nail your transitions, right? Those are writ large, the 3 big ones. But categories within each one. The score is really a jumping off point for better feedback. So I score on a 1, 2, 3 2 being the expectation, 3 being out of this world, 1 being, hey, we need to fix it
Can you
now.
touch on that? Because
Yeah.
I sent my training director out here to learn from. That was one of the things I loved the most. Because it's the expectation, but then there's a +1. So explain that scoring system a little bit.
Yeah. So it comes from, honestly, it comes from like grading film back playing sports, right? You get a check, you did your job. You get a plus, you did something great. You get a minus, hey, we need to talk about it, right? So what that does is it allows for, kind of the gray area, right? So what we had talked about, me and Joe, is sometimes, yes, it's being done, but like, is it, Or some of the stuff is very black and white, Is the music appropriate? That's going to be yes or no,
Right.
Did the session start on time? Well, yes or no. But did you stick and move and talk like Tony during that session? Well,
Is that like Tony Robbins? Is that
yeah.
Nice.
So, well, that's a little bit more of a gradient, right? With these people you did, with those people you didn't, so it's a jumping off point for feedback. So that might be hey, we got a 1 on this, but here's what you need to do to get it to a 2. And then as far as definitions goes, I go category by category. We do this as part of our development, our onboarding plan. I go with each of our new hires and I go, hey, here's what right looks like, here's what acceptable looks like, here's what unacceptable looks like.
Yeah.
Above the line, below the line.
2 things on this too, because this started off of Skyler's very analytical. It's like, what is a 2? What is a 3? We had all these different grading stuff. Like, what is it? And I'm like, we're going to have to define this.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, if I was coaching the session, or Skyler or Brian, took our best coaches, our most experienced coaches, and like, how would you do this? Is this what we expect? Or could it be a little bit, okay, great, let's define that. And so we did define that. So is it 100% objective? No, but it's objective enough for him to do it. And then now eventually our regionals and our leadership to do, because we've actually sat down and said, this is what we expect.
And
this is what this grading system is. Because if you just roll it out and say, hey, or do this, we are getting different feedback on what is a 2, what is a 3, so it has to say what success looks like and what does that actually, like, what does that mean? What is appropriate music?
Yeah.
So we get to define that. And I think a lot of people just they don't have the time or energy, they want to, this is a ton of time and energy to do this well.
One of the things that, just to illustrate this point of like objective versus subjective, we talked about like, if I walked into a gym and I'm like, man, the energy's like, I don't love the energy in here. Like, what is it? And we kind of define it as like, the music volume is important. I never want to walk into, obviously we're filming in here, I never want to walk into a gym where there's nothing happening.
Yep.
But what volume is like annoyingly high versus like too low? And we're basically like, if you walk into a gym, it should be between like a 30 and a 50 on the volume scale. When you're coaching, it should go from 60 to 80 because 80 to 100 is way too high.
Yep.
When you're giving instruction, it should be within this. So like that may be a little extreme of like an objective thing, but it gave us a way to actually quantify. And then it's like, did you welcome them? It's like, well, yeah, I did. But like, did you do it within 30 seconds of them walking through the door?
And username.
Yeah.
And username.
So it's like, that's how we've been able to like objectively.
That's not extreme at all. He's like, that's exactly what I was going to say. Like, write the number down. That's
Yeah.
the level of detail, again, at scale. When you try to do this, when you're not there,
It has to be that way.
that's how we can do things in our world. So and then also too, like he talked about categories. Like the categories are like, you can dive into this further.
Sure.
I'm going to paraphrase, but basically like, hey, like before the warm up, like or pre warm up, and then we do
pre-session.
warm up. So because that stuff matters. It was just let's grade the warm up, let's grade the fundamentals, let's grade the accessories, let's grade the finish. No, like it's pre-session or pre warm up, and then the transition periods or start to finish. Like we have this broken out into different sections. So then we can, when we onboard our coaches, right when they're finishing more of the advanced coaching portion, great, this is what the test is.
Yeah.
Study this, and then he uses that as so the same tool we use to evaluate becomes a tool to onboard and educate. So we're using the same tool for multiple purposes, which I think is like hard for me to simplify that much. It's like we're gonna do this for this and this for that. So we've been able to do that really well, and it's one of the best things we've done over the last year and a half, because it's, again, what does success look like? This is what we can expect you to do, and so now he can break those categories down big time.
Yeah.
And we have a record of it. So now it's like, hey, so-and-so they ran a great session, but their warm-up, here, you could get better at the warm-up. Explain this to me. How could this done differently, or could this been better?
And what do we say about A players? A players want to be evaluated. They want to be held accountable, right? So for the right people, this is a huge advantage. They go,
They did love it.
all I have to do is this to improve?
Yeah.
Great, right?
And we
Feed
took
me
an hour.
resources.
I think we took an hour to go through it with the whole staff,
Yes, we
line
did.
by line.
Yeah.
in
And
one of
that's
our
exactly
meetings.
the phase that we're
Yeah.
in, where even we're at the point where all of our documentation, like I want a photo of this is what the gym needs to look like when
Yeah.
somebody walks in.
Yeah.
This is what the racks look like. This is what
Yeah.
medicine ball dumbbells look like. Because again, we could say like the gym's not organized.
Yeah.
How do you make that objective? It's like there's a photo of this is what the picture perfect gym. Mark's looking around, looking for the flaws.
I'm like, somebody used the 60s and the 15s and the 20s
Yeah.
last session.
But
you know, but-
again, like I had some takeaways. Like I went through a whole
Yeah.
thing with like the Ritz-Carlton has a 100-point checklist
Yep.
that they run through
Yeah.
every single day of the facilities. Like how can you make that 100-point checklist of a session? That's kind of what we did. So the next question is like, because there are people that probably want to either have a position where it's a little gray of a training director, or they want to elevate somebody to a training director. Single location or multi, what does your day-to-day look like?
Sure. So checking in, so this morning doing an observation with one of our newer coaches in this pipeline, right? So doing an observation, checking in, doing developmental meetings, right? So some of those are in person, some of those are remote. And then in the evening, coaching, traveling around to the locations, seeing the shifts, and then driving that feedback. That feedback then also goes to meetings with facility leaders, goes to meetings with the leadership team. So on a day-to-day basis, I look at it as, hey, how can I check in with the people who need to hear from me? Whether that's through our team meeting at the beginning of the week, or whether that's through observations that I saw, giving them individual feedback, or whether that's through some continuing education, right?
Is there a like weekly checklist of like, I have had a great week if I gave this many session reviews, this many one-on-ones?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, not that specific
Yeah.
for that role right now, because again, this role has been in the making, I think, for 5 years. And it started off with education and helping lead internship programs with a little bit of new hires, and then it was a programming. So he does all of our programming for our athlete and adult programs, because this is the standard. Like, so now our coaches always want to talk about programming and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to know the standards and the principles of what we're trying to accomplish, but like take the guy with the most experience, the best program, and have him do it, and then watch. Like, that's your product, that's your recipe. So then he'll do that, and then again, some people will help with some other different stuff, but then he walks through that program, intro with the start of the program, and then middle of the month we're doing it again, full team.
Right.
You know, so that's happening too, and then so as this role has evolved too, and we keep expanding. So he's out here helping launch this new facility as well. So it's like, all right, let's shift this role focus for a quarter or two,
Yeah.
and then go from there once this has happened, you know. And so I say that just because, like, yeah, we could have that role, but
Yeah.
when you're growing,
It's fluid.
opened 5 facilities in the last 3 years, 2.5 years. Sorry, 2.5 years,
Yeah.
and you do it with leadership, and that's a whole other episode entirely.
So let me rephrase the question. If you were to talk to somebody that was like, hey, I want to have somebody step into this training director role,
Yeah.
what do I have them do? What would you tell them, like, this is what this person should be doing every single day?
Yeah.
Coaching is obviously, for training directors most of the time, they're still coaching a certain number of hours.
Yeah.
So let's say they're coaching 20 hours a week. What would you tell somebody the other 20 hours a week has to be dedicated to this?
I love it. Assess your product, figure out what right looks like. Of course, that's what we're talking about, being able to standardize the system.
Specific, like, what would you say if you're consulting for somebody that wants to elevate this person?
Yeah.
Selfishly asking for.
Yeah.
But how many session reviews would you say this person's got to do per week?
I definitely think once you get out to 3, 4, 5 a week, it can start to run together, and then your list of things overflows as far as what you run to the team. So one of the cool parts about the session review is I can take the best parts from that session review and then spread that through the entire team as well. Hey, I was at Plainfield, they were doing this, awesome.
Yeah.
Let's all throw in on that. I think once you get to 3, 4, 5, that might be too many. 2, 3,
Especially there's a lot of bouncing, you're like driving around,
Yeah.
and like you lose that task residue of not getting into deep work on anything. So let's say 3 session feedback sessions per week.
that would be great.
3 shifts.
Yeah.
3 shifts that you're doing, and then how would you distill that feedback and make use from it versus just you have a one-on-one, like you mentioned sharing that with a lot of people. What
Yeah.
does that look like?
Yeah, so I do it in multiple layers. This is one of those things that has been in flux as well. So of course we have the session evaluation, the scorecard, and that goes to the whole leadership team. But it was honestly coaches coming up to me at the end of it, and coaches asking me the day after, because we have great coaches who want to get better.
Yeah.
And they go, hey, do you have any feedback? And I go, well, send it to your manager, right? Obviously that's not ideal.
Right.
Okay, so what I try to do when I'm there, I try to go down to just that linchpin, as in, if you could snap your fingers and be better as a coach tomorrow, this is it, right? maybe here's some resources toward it, maybe here's this video where we talked about it, or maybe a lot of the big dogs we're coaching, hey, remember to do this, focus on this, here's a challenge on it. So I try to get them at least that one thing, it's a positive thing, hey, just do this, right? Then the feedback to the facility leader comes in a session observation. I usually do a voice note along with that. Then we go into our leadership team, we go, hey, here's what I'm seeing trends across the board from these multiple facilities, or if there's somebody who's struggling, right, here's this person that we really keeping an eye on, or that we really need to elevate to the next level, they might get their own section of that.
Right.
But, so it's individual to teams to, then I'm gonna try to read trends for the whole squad, for the whole company, for the whole
Do
team.
you have like a database that you can see these trends in one place?
Yep, so all of the session evaluations live forever in a single document,
That's awesome.
right? That was obviously a request via Mark and the rest of the leadership team, because
Sounds
they,
like a Mark.
they want to know how the quality is,
Yeah.
right? And that's what
I
I
want to see
see.
everything in
Well,
one
one
place.
is none either, because that's the thing, we've relied on him a lot, like, oh, Skyler's doing it. All right, well, like, God forbid, like Skyler went on vacation for a week
Yeah.
or something else, like, what do we do? All the system busts then.
Skyler's
It's
got a
like,
notebook in his backpack.
one is none,
All of it,
one
yeah.
is none, like, so, and we, don't get me wrong, we've done that, we did that.
Yeah,
you
so,
know,
yeah.
so,
We all have.
and I also think that question too is like, is it one facility or is it multiple? Because the role looks different.
Right.
You know, it looks really different with that. And one thing he does too is on that trends thing, and I'm always talking about like that. So, hey, what does the team need to hear right now? Hey, we have our quarterly full team meeting coming up. What topics do we want to present on? We have everyone there. It's an expensive meeting.
Yeah.
It's a huge investment we make. What's the biggest splash we can make? Or, hey, what do you see in the adult program? I'm running the coordinator meetings right now, so for my adult coordinators, what do I need to kind of emphasize? You know, by the way, too, when I review we do a lot of social proof, a lot of videos and testimonials and all that. So when our team's in there getting B-roll of sessions, like I'll take out clips that don't look the best. We have a whole folder sharing with the staff,
Yeah.
and I'm like, by the way, this is getting lost. By the way, we have our heck no list of what we'll never do at Powerstrength.
Yeah.
Hey, some of them are doing some heck no's.
Give me an example of one of them.
So a lot of it's safety.
Yeah.
I don't like straps on wrists for sleds.
Straps.
So
on
when
wrists
a
for-
member will
when
just
they're
they'll
driving.
put it through the handle.
Yeah.
Because if they fall, they're hurting their wrist. Also, I think it's straight up cheating. Just hold it and go. And it's more of a safety thing. But or little things like that. Hey, like every time we do a split squat or a unilateral movement, is their foot angled out, like or in? Like, can we just have a straight foot? Why do we not have a full foot on the ground? Why are we setting up chains that way? You know, this is how you set up chains. There is a right way. And it's like, again, the strength world is like,
Very
well,
unique to Powerstrength
it depends.
training system.
It's like, it depends. It's like, no, like in Powerstrength, there's a right or wrong. And that's what we have to have.
Yeah.
And I think we've gone with whatever they want, figure it out. And he's done that too. Like, well, I don't put limitation on them. And no, there is a right or wrong way. It's the only way we can
You're always
evaluate.
Walking that tight walk,
Yeah.
of like nurturing autonomy and like empowering people to
Yeah.
come up with solutions and
Yeah.
holding the standard of like,
Yeah.
no, this is the way we do things.
Here's the thing. If we always refer the product as our food, right? So if you have a world-class recipe, you can let the chef just like, hey, tinker with this at the time, whatever you feel like doing.
Yeah.
And we've gotten more and more strict on that as we had to expand. Because if you have a recipe for success, don't change it. You only enhance it, which means taste test, right?
Test it.
So yeah,
Any changes,
yeah.
probably test and iterate.
Quality ingredients, like
Yeah.
don't change on that. you
That
know?
has helped some of our coaches, just the way our coaches make decisions on the client's behalf, and they're encouraged to do that. Some coaches, the feedback is that they're overwhelmed with the number of decisions to be made. They're overwhelmed with the number of possibilities. Hey, you can do anything in a warm-up as long as you hit these 4 principles. By the way, here's stock warm-ups that we know work, right? So for some people, giving them the guardrails allows them to own the middle even more.
And I'll tell you the biggest mistake that I made was going too far into the autonomous route and being like, hey, here's the guardrails, make it your own, way before they should have been able to do that. And I thought I was being a good leader because I was like, you have all this freedom, you can put your thumbprint on things. It really caused frustration, confusion, because they were getting feedback that it wasn't good enough, and they were kind of like, well, you told me to do it my way, and this is my way, and I'm like, no, it's not the way it should be done.
Yeah.
So like sometimes like discipline equals that freedom,
Yep.
and those constraints are freeing to them because they don't have to think about it, and sometimes that's what an employee, a team member wants.
Yeah.
So I know you got to go. The last thing, you do a lot of team education. What does that look like?
Yeah.
How do you educate the team?
Yeah, so that could be everything from our weekly meeting. That could be when I go and do session observations. I'll often
What
do
does
it.
the weekly meeting look like?
Weekly meeting is immediately following our location meetings. We all get together remotely, right? Lots of locations going on. Early in the month, that'll be, hey, these are the new programs for the month. Mostly, here's the intent, and here's what you might do with the programs to change them. And then it changes week to week. If we have an adult challenge coming up, if we have an athlete change of season coming up, if we have an event coming up, or if I just see something off in an observation, and I publish those in advance and say, here's what we're talking about. If we have stuff to prep ahead of time, try to get that out if at all possible. If there are, sometimes there's documents that go along with it. Hey, I made you a cheat sheet on, here's this part of the session evaluation, here's how we dominate it, right? We could take the session evaluation itself and just go category by category.
So it's not just trainer education, it's company initiative, like it's total stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it has to be, because like we got lost in the weeds of like, just want more topics, just random stuff.
Yes.
And in his mind, he's like, well, why? Like, what do I like? How's this benefit us? Like, I can just tell me what it is. So it's like, I think the better phrasing is like, yeah, hey, if you had to pick one thing to talk about with athlete sessions, what's the one thing that we're seeing? What's the one thing that we need to do this time of year, or whatever it is? And that goes collectively all the way down to the individual. So,
we could take the time to talk about the 801st version of squat.
Yep.
Or we can educate our coaches on how to help support our adult clients through a busy holiday season.
Yeah.
How do you modify the training for that? How do you speak around that, right? Which do you think is going to be more valuable, So it is coaching, but coaching with a capital C, right?
Yeah.
We will talk X's and O's. We'll talk details if necessary.
To the extent that's needed.
That's usually built into the front end, right? That's in the development, but then in the sustainment, it's how do we master this thing? And everyone sitting here knows that it's not 799 squats going to 800. It's how do you talk to people? How do you meet them where they're at? How do you pick up the conversation in their head?
It's a good
so on
growth
and
thing
so
that
forth.
he's had too, because one of the best technical and tactical coaches early on just has a brain that can do that. And it's like, well, how do you relate to that person? How do they understand how well it is? By the way, can you teach other people how to do that too? Yeah. Otherwise, your growth will always be limited. And so he took that, ran with it, and now we can, I have all this experience, and I'm going to share this rolling downhill. And now look, he's in charge of 40 people on our staff, and the quality that we have, with again great support with other great leaders, of course. Yeah. But someone's got to be thinking about that at a very, very high or indoor deep level to care enough to make that slight change, And it also, it's the same thing too. I do it with our facility leaders and also our managers, and like with him too. It's like, hey, you see that? What do you guys see? So this is my owner eyes exercise. Have I ever told you about this before?
I think so.
You can do you can do a facility walkthrough. Hey, what do you see about that? Hey, what about that? You see that? Oh, I see that the dumbbell's out of place. I see there's dust on this thing. Yeah, so do I. Did you notice this? This could be a safety hazard. This could be a thing.
Yeah.
And also for the session too. Hey, what do you see there? Oh, all his back's turned to the whole room, and he looks like he's spending too much time with that one person. Oh, okay, yeah. You see how that person was disengaged? Yeah, I saw that too. So taking time to do that, and hone your craft. I think that's really important.
Cool. Well, listen, I know you got to go. I appreciate you coming on, man.
Absolutely.
Skyler Davis, Powerstrength Training Director. Mark Ennis, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
That was good stuff.
Really good. Really good stuff.
Appreciate it.
Really.